So welcome to AHR 2025 in sunny and warm Orlando, Florida. Welcome to the Midea Residential Air Conditioning booth. Everyone who knows me knows I love a good story. And so when I was a young man and fresh out of college and very naive and ready to conquer the world, my parents sat me down and said, "David, here's some advice. You'll grow to an age where the days are long and the years are short. So take advantage of this time in your life." And something hit me, so I went back and I thought to myself, what does that mean and why are you guys so dumb? So anybody that's got children understand that at 20, 22 years old? So welcome. But even though the years go by quickly, I've got good news. So for Midea, the years don't go by quickly. So over the past year, from blustery Chicago, Illinois, with the rain and the snow, we've come a long way. And we continue to innovate, and we continue to perform, and we continue to push to where we can come up and we can bring you the finest, most efficient, and the highest performing products in the HVAC industry. And we will not stop until we get there. We've also added product and program and industry professionals from around the world to join our team. And so as we grow, we've added distribution throughout North America, so East Coast, West Coast, Canada, South, and even soon days locally in Kissimmee, Florida, we'll have a Midea OBM showroom opening as well. So we're very, very proud of that. We're very proud of the growth that we've had. We thank you for being here. So now we're going to walk into a panel discussion led by Clifton Beck from ESCO Institute, and it's going to be on heat pumps, trends, and commercialization. So I'll pass it off to Clifton, and then we can roll from there. And so thank you again for being here.
David, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. So my name is Clifton Beck. I'm with the ESCO Institute in HVAC Excellence. So we work with schools and educators across the country to help prepare them for changes and transitions. And as you all know, we're going through technological changes, we're going through refrigerant transitions. And so there's a dire need for the industry to be educated on where we are. So if we look at the transition that we're going through, we're spending a lot of time looking at heat pumps and a sustainable future that is driven by heat pump technology. And so I myself spent a couple decades in the industry as a technician and have seen these transitions. So many of our educators, even many of our contractors, are very comfortable working with existing technologies. As we move into new technologies, it's very important that as an industry, we have professionals that walk us through any of the changes, any of the challenges, any of the requirements or new techniques and special skills that are required for this new transition. Might be a speaker. So today we're going to be spending some time with some industry professionals looking at different perspectives of the heat pump transition. And we are very fortunate to be partnered with Midea as an educational partner for the industry to bring all of these technologies and innovations to those that are on the forefront of actually implementing the technologies. So today we're going to be spending some time with Carl Bloomfield, Vice President of Intertek. We're going to be spending time with Rick Huddle. Rick is a resource innovations and utility consultant for our industry. We're going to be spending time with David Rames, Senior Product Manager for Midea, as well as Phil Huang, North American Sales Director. So thank you all for joining us very much today. So let's talk about some of the things that we are going to be introduced to into the industry. So we know that we're making a very significant transition. What are some of the driving forces for these new technologies, these new innovations? Because many people see this very rapid advancement in technology and they go, where's that coming from? What's the driving force behind this? And so there's a variety of different ways we can look at that. And from manufacturers, it's really interesting to see the changes that have happened in technology. So we all have different contributions as to what are the driving forces behind this. So Carl, do you mind if we start with you since you're right here closest to me and talk about what we see from like the regulatory and the testing inside? Because as we were talking before this conversation, there's been a lot of changes in a short period of time.
Thanks, Clifton. So from a industry point of view, what we're seeing is that there's a need for standardization. So appropriate test methods to support the growth or the demand for more energy efficient products. So on our end, we're looking at how do we support manufacturers the regulators, the industry in defining test methods or agreeing on test methods that we think will qualify these products appropriately.
Sure. So, and how do we do the test and validation?
It's test validation, but also at the end of the day, manufacturers. It involves manufacturers that are innovative, creating new products. We have regulators who have a mindset as to certain achievements they want to have accomplished at certain energy efficiency levels or similar. And you might have different manufacturers that have the same concept, but do it slightly differently. And so now is how do we write a standard test method that all can agree on? It usually involves compromise, right? To get to a happy point where we all agree that, yes, this is the most appropriate based on the different innovations that each manufacturer might have.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also see,
Rick, if you don't mind, yeah.
we're also seeing a lot
Of demand
from the industry.
And so when we look at
how heat pumps have changed. Previously, we looked at heat pumps as being a regional product. And so not all of the country was even aware of the capabilities of modern heat pumps. So as these new transitions of equipment start to develop, from an industry side, what is the demand and what type of consumer awareness are we starting to see?
Yeah, the utilities are really excited about all the new heat pumps that are coming on board. I'm from the Northwest, and it's just a perfect climate for especially the new cold climate units that are coming out. But even all over the North, Massachusetts, they see a lot of adoption there in Maine and Vermont, all sorts of places. And the utilities are really excited about the efficiency and the decarbonization that they can get by installing heat pumps versus kind of your standard gas furnace. And it really, this expanded capacity down at lower temperatures really helps them manage their demand, so they don't have to build new power plants.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Phil, one of the things that we see from Midea is high efficiency products across the entire product line. That's nothing new that we've seen from Midea. So Midea keeps pushing envelope. Can you tell us a little bit about the growth on the consumer side and some of the new product technologies that we're going to see going forward?
Technology-wise, I think I will lead to David Rams. You will be better know about our technology.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. So I'll agree with what Rick said was performance, right? When it comes to heat pumps. And everyone who's ever heard me, I love to say this isn't your grandpa's heat pump anymore, and it's not your grandpa's heat pump anymore. So as we go through decarbonization and electrification, it does us no good if the heat pump doesn't perform as well as, say, a gas furnace that you pulled out, right? And people are used to that. So we don't want to freeze them to death at 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So what Midea does is we research, develop, and we test, and we continue to push the boundaries as far as efficiency, performance, capacity, where we want our heat pumps to be not only cold climate heat pumps, but we want them to be all climate heat pumps. So one product can be installed anywhere, and we can take care of that demand from there.
I know Midea has spent a lot of time directly talking to the industry, a variety of industry stakeholders, including installers and contractors, as to what are the benefits, what things could be adapted with product lines to make them easier for installation, easier for commissioning and system selection. Can you tell us about some of those changes that we have seen in those products along the way?
Yeah, so our mission is to form these strong alliances with not only our distribution partners, but with the contractors, and we do an astronomical amount of consumer research. So, one thing that I say is it's really cool to have this group of engineers at the top who say, I think consumers want this, and force feed it down. But at Midea, that's not what we do. So we do a lot of consumer research from a consumer perspective and a contractor perspective. We see what they want first, and then we push it up through the development cycle, right? So when that product is complete, it's actually what they wanted. And so easy installation, flexibility for our distribution partners, SKU minimization. So one product can do multiple things. And so when we partner with those different levels, we try to make it easier on all of them.
So are we starting to see a growth in distribution
of higher performance heat pumps and inverters?
Are we starting to see the distributors looking at their product lineups going, oh, inverters really are the future of our industry?
Well, yeah, and Clifton, as you know, it's all about education, right? And so I forgot who I was talking to, but we donate a lot of equipment to trade schools, and we had some trade schools that wouldn't take us up on the donation, and I couldn't figure it out. And finally, someone came to me and said, "David, you have to understand, it's not that they don't need the equipment; it's that they're not skilled enough to teach the equipment."
Exactly.
And they were a little intimidated by it,
Yeah.
quite frankly. So that's when we revamped our technical support team and our training team, which all those guys are here today, just to make sure that whether it's a contractor, a distributor, or a trade school, they know the equipment, how to install it, how to troubleshoot it, and how to service it. And then that takes the pain point and the pressure off of that to where they feel more at ease to offer it.
Absolutely. Another
Concern that we do here in the industry is cost, because anytime we add new technologies, we are going to see some cost changes and definitely a change in education. When we start looking at the actual cost of the equipment, Rick, let's talk about ways that
the industry is starting to focus on incentives
and opportunities to promote these high performance technologies.
Yeah. So there's several kind of layers of incentives and rebates that are available. Of course, there's the federal tax credits that come out, and that's a chunk. A lot of states, about half of the states have gone through their IRA application process and are incentivizing products with lower first costs. A lot of that goes to lower and middle income folks. And then utility companies really love to incentivize heat pumps. It's a great product, and they love kind of helping their homeowners get new products in. So a lot of utilities have individual utility rebates as well.
Okay, so when we're looking at products and the capabilities and the performance of them, we need to have some standards. Because when we start talking about the variety of technologies and the capabilities, there's no one heat pump that is an absolute solution for everything. Right? We're going to have a variety of product lines to fit different market demands. So, Carl, when we start talking about equipment and certifying performances of them, how has the industry been adapting to new technologies? Because for decades, we really didn't change a whole lot. We had single-stage and two-stage equipment, both in air conditioning, heat pump, and gas appliances. And today, that's a very different world.
Right. So as you mentioned, and so innovation, manufacturers are always innovating products.
Right.
And it's a very fast-moving world.
It is.
And so when it comes to, sometimes they say, hey, standardization or standards, the testing organizations slow things down.
Right.
And that's not really the intent. The intent is to get to a point where we can qualify, right, and verify that the claims are being met. So it's from an industry point of view or from a standards point of view, we are trying to, Phil mentioned the fact that you have understanding technology.
Yeah.
And then understanding technology between different brands, right, what they're doing. And then now you try to make sure you agree upon I mentioned before, a methodology that can actually prove some of the claims are being met, right? And that requires testing.
Yeah.
And that usually requires having samples to test, prototypes, test. And so from an organizational point of view, we are trying to be as fast and as efficient as the manufacturers are trying to get these products in the marketplace, because we know there's a need for it. It's just about, hey, how do we complement the efforts that are being created? So you have the regulators, you have the manufacturers. How do we make the test labs not slow things down by the test methods and similar that we're doing?
Sure, absolutely. While we're on manufacturing, if you don't mind passing it down to Phil and David, that brings up a great point about product selections. As we start moving to transition into new technologies, as a manufacturer, how do you keep up with keeping the manufacturing? Because you could have 20 different models, or you could actually, as I've seen with Midea, really focus on reducing the amount of product stock to maximize those equipment matchups.
And as a technician, as a contractor, it's very important. So I'm sure it's been a strategy and a challenge for my kids.
I will try to answer the question because actually Midea is very focusing on the technology that can reduce in the SKU. For example, we have like auto sensor or the auto adaptive technology.
Yes.
For example, you have a one model called window unit 9,000 BTU, but when you measure a outdoor is 12,000 BTU, it becomes 12,000 BTU, and 9,000 BTU becomes 9,000 BTU. By this way, we can also reduce in the SKU level, which also helping our contractor or the builder to have a very least SKU inventory management, but has a most of a variety of applications, and also helping them to reducing the logistic cost, also the after sales service cost, also reducing. Yeah, this is also what we're trying to devoting ourselves to. Do you have any idea to make that?
And Phil brought up a great point, which was we try to be as flexible as possible, right? What our new Gen 3 air handler, our G Cubed air handler, both 2.8, 230, and 115, right? So you don't need two different models for two different power sources. One model does both power sources, right? So just things like that, where we get input from Phil and the sales team, and then we get input from our consumer research, and then we develop products based off of what they want, but not what we want to sell them. So the customer is the boss.
Yeah. Well, while we got the mic down there, that's a great transition. As we start talking about education, like my primary focus is and to help contractors understand this, but it is also a consumer education to new and understanding the difference in technologies, the way that they operate, to understand that modulation is a very different world than single stage switch that was on and off. And so as we create these new products, these partnerships for education for our installers and service technicians and contractors is also as important as the education to the consumer. Can we talk about ways that that Midea is starting to do education in the industry from different aspects?
Yeah, absolutely. So kudos to ESCO, right? But I mean, who is a driving force behind education. And one thing we've found out on the Midea side is we put this technical and this training group together is, in the beginning, we would just come into our distributor partner. Okay, this is it. This is how it works. This is what you need to do. But what we found was we wanted to take it a level below that. So we now invite the contractors in to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, right, or the manufacturer who knows this product better than anybody. And so maybe there are consumers who are interested. You guys come in too. And I think, in the sales team and Phil were the driving force behind this as we implement these Midea branded showroom. Mm-hmm. Across North America for consumers who normally in the past would just get a piece of literature at the kitchen table and have to make a $20,000 decision based off of a piece of literature.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable doing that.
No.
We invite them to one of our many Midea showrooms, who honestly looks very similar to this booth, and they can come in and kick the tires, and they can learn more about, because they're about to make major investment into their home. From what I see, probably the second largest investment next to the roof, right? Putting a new roof on the house. And we want them to know that. So I'll let Phil, because he was a big part of the OBM Midea showrooms, kind of talk about how that process went.
Yes, actually, it's a new trial for us. It's a new experience in the market because we haven't seen that in the market. So Midea is the first one to bring the showroom concept into the market. So far, it works quite well. Mm-hmm. And now we have going to launch the 9th showroom in this year, and then going to be another 30, 40 showrooms probably. So it's kind of a success because when you have a showroom in the market, the customers, homeowners, contractors can come to see, what exactly this heat pump is, and they can sense it, and they can know what's the application of it. So it's really, I think it's a very innovative way to educate the heat pump. Also, it can become an information hub. Also, we can invite the trade schools, contractors to be trained there. It's a really very good experience. Yeah.
It's a very unique experience. So have any of you been to one of the Midea showrooms? So I myself got to visit one a few months back, and I wasn't sure what I was going to. I would get to see some equipment. I'm used to seeing equipment, but it was very much a different experience, and it made me think about purchasing vehicles, just like David was mentioning. When was the last time you purchased a vehicle from a flyer? Right? That's about it. So that's really what it comes down to. So when you go into the showroom, you're not just seeing a display of equipment, you're actually getting to function. So everything is fully functional. You can touch it, you can hear it, you actually get to be a part of that experience. They're installed in environments that look and feel very much like the home atmosphere. And so it really changed my perspective from the contractor side or from the consumer side, that I actually get to evaluate this product before I make this large decision. Everyone can tell me what a decibel is, but until I can actually stand next to it and have a comparison, it doesn't really resonate. So the experience from the showroom changed my view of where Midea is bringing not just the technology, but the visual, like bringing that experience. Another way that I have seen that is when we talk about cold climate heat pumps that perform in cold. Not only do you tell us how well they perform, you actually put in some of the harshest environments that I have encountered. So can you tell us a little bit about the cold climate project that Midea has done some amazing videos on?
You know, at Midea, we always like to push the boundaries.
Yes.
We like to stress test our equipment because in a laboratory, boy, it works great. But I can tell you what, a lab and a real world application are two completely different things. A lab doesn't have 5 kids and 3 dogs coming in and out all the time, but a house does. So we worked with the Discovery Channel, and we looked through some different case studies, and we found a situation in Willow, Alaska, which to date is the coldest place I've ever been in. But it was an incredible project where we found Willow Ranch, which is a ranch run by 4 special needs men, and they do a phenomenal job. But they lived in a duplex, and we've actually got a little display over here about it. They lived in a duplex, and they were in this duplex where temperatures get well below 0 in the wintertime, and I think it's winter all the time in Alaska, or at least it was when I was there. And they had one unit sitting out in the middle of the living room, and that one unit take care of the entire duplex. And so the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the kitchen and all of that, so they were freezing. The windows were bad, the doors were bad. So we completely did a total remake: insulation, windows, doors, appliances, and HVAC. And what we found is, and we found this through our Department of Energy Cold Climate Heat Pump Technology Challenge, where we're getting 118% of our radiant heating capacity at 15 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 below 0 Fahrenheit.
Right.
We thought Alaska was perfect. And so a year ago, October, we put them in. No news is good news. We've checked in. Everything's running like a champ, and we're keeping them comfortable in Willow, Alaska with these products, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. We've also seen a lot in the social media education. I know Midea has been doing a lot of promotion of the products, being able to show not just products, but the technologies and capabilities. You know, we're at like 4.6 interactions in social media. So we're starting to do a lot more, both for contractors and consumers as well. If we can move it over to Rick, would you mind, Rick, telling us a little bit about ways that we are helping educate and target consumers for these new products?
Yeah. So the utilities are definitely their homeowners. A lot of
one of the things I really try to encourage
the utilities to do. Homeowners and contractors. I think we've seen in
in the Northwest, particularly,
we've seen a lot of field installations that didn't perform, not Midea products, but products overall didn't perform what they needed to, and we've kind of
realized that
it comes down to how it gets installed and how critical. So I appreciate everything that y'all are doing in that regards.
And so we really try to encourage
Contractor education, and because consumers rely on their contractors
for so much input and advice that's in
their avenue.
And Carl, so from a validation standpoint, I know that you're also working with manufacturers to validate performance of systems so that we have documented information that we can use in the education. Are you seeing that as a transition? Are you seeing validating the performance of a product is now becoming more important than it was maybe in the past?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the past, you'd have manufacturers make claims,
right?
But if it doesn't work in the field, then where do you go,
Exactly.
right? So what happens? So a lot of manufacturers do a lot of their own internal testing, but then they still go to third-party labs to validate their claims themselves, right? So that way there's proof that, hey, it's not just us saying this, but here we're testing it to an industry norm, and here's the results that show that this product performs as intended by an unbiased third-party provider.
That's become very important for me is the data that is coming back from validation. Because as a contractor and a technician in the past, when I was looking at the performance of a system, I would use the extended heating data tables of an installation manual. I may look at AHRI ratings, which back in those days was rated at 47 degrees. We would see what the performance was. Recently, those have been updated to 5 degrees, so we can see that. But when we start talking about products that are now down into the negative temperatures, we're starting to need more data on the performance of the validation of these systems. So we're starting to see that data being brought into databases like the NEAP database, where we're actually looking at the total performance of this, the validated performance, all the way down into these sub-zero temperatures. And so for a contract, it's really interesting for me because now I can look at what products. If I'm a contractor and someone is trying to sell a heat pump, and not all heat pumps are created equal, and they're trying to sell a product and they say that it's going to function at this point, I actually can now pull validated information and go, actually that product that person was trying to sell you shuts off at 5 degrees. Here's the validation for it.
If I can add one more point to this topic, it's that as manufacturers get more and more creative in terms of how low they can go, keep in mind that the labs have to build a facility that can test these conditions, right?
I've got to come sometime.
And it takes a while to get these labs built.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we build one, the manufacturer says, well, I want to go lower.
Yeah.
So that's where this wire keeps moving.
Absolutely.
That the labs have to keep up with the manufacturers. And that's why it's important for us to partner with manufacturers early.
Sure.
To understand where that they're trying to go versus, hey, we have a product in the market, verified meets this. When, it's going to take us 6 to 9 months to build a facility to demonstrate all the conditions you're doing. So from a third-party point of view, we're always trying to engage with manufacturers. The more innovative a manufacturers, the more we try to engage because we know they're pushing, the extremes. Always come up with something new, never satisfying with, hey, it's good at 0 or whatever it might be. What if it went to X, Y, Z, such that we can now invest in facilities to support those claims themselves?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, think about a facility that can do testing. Unless we're going to Alaska, that's quite the investment, and to be prepared for that as we see these transitions just escalating and adapting. And it's almost when we started out with the cold climate heat pump challenge, it's really turned into a manufacturer competition. So as a test facility, I imagine it's quite challenging keeping up with those changes.
Definitely.
Yeah. So as you can see, we're
starting to have an entire industry that is collaborating.
An entire industry that is trying to stay up to date. We're all going through changes very quickly. We're going to continue to see changes in our industry. We're going to see new performing equipment. Every year at this AHR show, we're going to see new technologies and innovations that is driving the industry forward. And so as we do that, is really going to be key, right? I have seen more manufacturers invest in training than I have in the past. And David and I have been on shows talking about these technologies, and the participation was phenomenal. People are coming up to us going, I didn't realize we had heat pumps that could operate that low. I didn't realize you could install a heat pump in Alaska. And so as this collaboration continues, I'm very excited to have 5 different aspects of the industry all joining to be able to talk about equipment, making sure that we're well educated on the transitions. So while you've got the microphone, if you don't mind, is there any gaps that we have seen between manufacturers and policy as we move forward that makes a challenge? Because I know myself, I've seen some technology transition rules that are really forcing lower GWP refrigerants and especially code jurisdictions to look at, what can operate in areas. Are you seeing challenges from the industry when it comes to product selections and testing?
It's a trick question because I'd say from a industry point of view, different states, different countries move at different speeds.
Yes.
And in some cases, manufacturers have a product that a regulator might not yet have validated the refrigerant type or
sure.
So where we see this a lot is that a lot of times products exist, but the products and the performance to support those products exist. But in terms of regulations varying between different areas, it's like, I probably can't go as fast as I'd like.
I see.
So, and then the other thing to keep in mind is that we have manufacturers that are global. And so you want to be able to show that, hey, I tested here, I tested there at different spots, you're getting comparable data.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not just about the capabilities, the testing, the regulations, but we also want to correlate data between facilities, and that takes time to get some of that data in place also.
Sure, I can absolutely see that. So Rick, when we start talking about partnering with utilities and launching these programs. Can you tell us what that looks like? So if I'm a consumer, learn about this, right? I know that my manufacturers are pushing the test labs to get their facilities to be able to actually validate these systems in super low ambient conditions, and they are performing. Consumers that are relooking at their product selections going, wow, that idea
rejection
whole
climate
climate
heat pump really looks like
my solution.
What are ways that I can work with my
Local utilities and other incentives. Like, where do I even begin?
Yeah, well, a lot of utilities have their information online, and reaching out. It's kind of different for each utility that has programs, and so you really have to reach out to your individual utility to see what they have. A lot of them may offer programs through different contractors. They have trade allies that help them install the proper equipment, and so reaching out to the utility directly is probably the best way to go.
Sure, absolutely. And I know we're starting to see a lot of data coming in from our validation, also from the field side. Are you starting to see stakeholders sharing this data because it's such a new development, but an exciting one at the same time?
Yeah, we're some of the regional energy efficiency organizations. You mentioned NEEP. Somebody mentioned NEEP. Yeah, and NEA. They're all really get that information out. The NEEP database is really helpful. NEA is really working with their with manufacturers and distributors to try to push that information. All of the state that the new equipment can meet those temperatures. Yeah.
So as a manufacturer, I'll pass this over to Phil and David. Starting to see the energy co-ops, and are you starting to see the energy offices now looking to the manufacturers to learn more about the products and learn more about training as we move into these new technologies?
I will first answer and then we'll pass to David. So actually, yes, from the manufacturer point, we believe the collaboration is into 3 levels. The first level, we can go with the government department and also the industrial associations. For example, through the joint program like CCHP and also the Clean Heat for All with the NYSERDA and also NYCHA. By this kind of program, then they will know that we will know better what is that their requirement, what's their expectations, and then they will know what is the level of the technology of the industry goes. Then they can also work out the how to lead the industry go into the way they want, right direction they want, and with a very practical way, with a very realistic roadmap to lead the industry the way they want to go. So in the second level that we would like to collaborate is that the contractors, yes. We do a lot of interactions with contractors, looking with them, talking to them, listening to them about their pain points, their needs, and their concerns. So also a lot of trainings with the MRC. Also, we do a lot of social media to the homeowners to let them to get to know about what is heat pumps, etc. things. So, David, you want to add something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything. And on top of that is it's hard for the utility companies and the groups to know what to talk about if they don't know what it does.
Exactly.
And so the goal as we transition to heat pumps is we realize we've got a heat pump, we've got an air handler, we've got an auxiliary heat strip in there. The goal is for that thing to never work. That's the goal, right? And so how do we do that? We do that through compressor technology and the advanced vapor injection and even steps, sequential stage and all of that. So we want that compressor to do all the work, and we want to show that in lab testing, which we had to go through some stringent lab testing for the Cold Climate Technology Challenge. We also want to talk about the demand response, right? And so grid flexibility is one term that we use. So if they set it back and they set it forward and they do this every day at 5:30 p.m., we don't want the auxiliary heat strip kicking on because that defeats the purpose of everything we're trying to do. So internally through development and through engineering, that's what we try to make it. Let's get the compressor, the variable speed to do all the work. Let's run at mid compressor staging and mid amp draws, so we're not stressing the grid, as that grid has got to grow with the changing environment of electrification.
That's a good point. In understanding how the systems interact with the grid, it's going to be crucial as we move forward in an environment that is very much focusing about energy and conservation of energy. I know within the last 5 years, this industry has looked very different to me than it did in the past. And I'm very excited about the changes that we've seen. I'm incredibly excited about what manufacturers like Midea has done with technology and innovations. So what do you see going forward? Any anticipations of what might next year look like? Because this year looks a lot different than last year, looks a lot different than the previous year. I know we've seen like enhanced vapor injection. What do you anticipate? What do you imagine as being changes for the next year?
Well, I was part of the R22 to 410A transition. And then we get into 410A and we're like, we're going to be able to breathe for a long time and sit back and relax.
Yeah.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now we've got the lower GWP, right? So we got to get below 750, whether it's R32 or whether it's R454B. But we know there's another step coming. So there's never time to relax. And there's never time to relax on the performance either, because what we want to do, organization electrification plan is to make sure that if someone chooses to get that gas furnace out and go all electric, we're providing that comfort that they're used to. So there's not this shock of what we call cold blow as they sit in the living room and they're like, it's really cold in here, even though the thermostat says 72.
Sure.
So compressor performance, high heat output, but we also have areas of the country, whether it's here in Florida or Texas and Arizona or whatever, we need some real high ambient cooling as well, right? So you see some of the statistics that we have where we want to go up to 120 or 130 degrees Fahrenheit and still give them good cooling capacity so the system's not shutting off on high head pressure. So between that technology, the refrigerant transition, and then the electrification transition, we got a lot on our plate.
Yeah,
for sure.
To David's point, actually, as a manufacturer, we always focus on the cost efficiency.
Yeah.
No matter how high, how fancy technologies, we want it to be affordable to the regular persons, regular houses. So that's how we do and what we do and what we're good at. So if we talk about the future of the heat pump, we want to do affordable heat pumps and keep their cost really acceptable and affordable to the common people. That's our mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that sounds good to Rick as we start working with incentives and opportunities. I mean, that really is the good technology we have, and how can we encourage everyone to be looking at heat pumps for themselves?
Yeah. And I think, Dave brought up a good point about the grid. With all this push for electrification, that's a big demand on our grid, and a lot of places really have issues with transmission abilities already. And so putting this bigger demand on the grid, that's where these better technologies are going to be helpful. And we just have to kind of work together. Let's really appreciate all the collaboration that we have with manufacturers and distributors to us understand what needs to happen and what can happen as far as maintaining grid stability.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl, so I know you've had a lot of changes in your test facilities. Do you have any imagination in the year to come?
For us, we're just trying to make sure we're staying in step with the manufacturers and their technology, because we don't want to be the bottleneck that prevents it from hitting the market. And for us, there is the performance standards, but there's also the safety standards. And so sometimes the products perform as intended, if not better, but the safety standards say, oh, this is not allowed. So we're trying to make sure that we are adept, we're understanding the technology that the manufacturers are coming out with, such that we can, under our engagement with the standards, safety standards, have those standards be revised to keep up with the technology. Otherwise, you have a product that works really great, but it doesn't comply to get it certified. So that's our intent, is to be as engaged and be on the front end as best as we can.
So I hear adapting to change and breaking barriers and making heat pumps available for everyone. Yeah, that myself is our future. Anyone have any questions before we wrap things up today?
Yes, sir, Russell.
How are you folks looking to incorporate AI? How are you looking to incorporate AI in future technology? Because all the performance enhancements are fantastic, but the ability to actually monitor, diagnose, and see it performing in real time and collecting data over the course of the history of for the consumer, for the contractor. Are you looking at that?
I know I can speak on that. If anyone doesn't want to, you'd be welcome to. So I know from the industry side, I actually personally work with manufacturers as well as third-party companies that are developing monitoring tools that could be incorporated into new systems as well as existing systems to monitor performance and quality, that uses AI to be able to monitor energy performance and then utilize that for maximum capacity, especially when we start making transitions into energy storage, which I feel is probably going to be one of the next things that we see in the very near future in our industry, is means to utilize energy to store it when we can actually purchase it at the lowest prices. And so I've seen technology already that is starting to integrate AI, because I came from the building automation sector where AI is really taken an advantage because it can now do programming to maximize system energy efficiency. And so in residential, yeah, we're actually already starting to see that in the residential and light commercial sector. So it's an interesting time in our industry. And that's why we encourage these conversations and for people to collaborate, ask, because if we don't ask, we spark curiosity.
And I'll kind of go back to quickly to the manufacturing side of things, to where I'm a pretty competitive guy, but I think competition wonderful thing, right? So it is the rising tide lifting all the boats. So when one manufacturer comes out with a tech, look at it and go, we can beat that, or they can beat that, or they can beat us, then we all get better, we all get sharper, and everyone wins by that. But I want to kind of go with what Phil said, and he made an exceptional point, which is if this product gets too be able to afford and we don't have penetration in the marketplace, then what good are we really doing?
Great point.
And so let's work not only on efficiency and capacity and this competition between manufacturers, but we also have to streamline the production side and the innovation side, and we have to make it affordable, because if we can only sell to 1%, we're really not making an impact.
So true.
So one comment with regard to AI, great, helps to make things easier to report, monitor, etc. But then it brings in the cybersecurity aspect of it.
Absolutely.
So on our end, we also have to make sure that we are qualifying these products not just for their performance capabilities, but also make sure they're cybersecurity safe.
The security platform,
so
protocol.
the things that we're also trying to support in that end.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a whole different round on the cyber side. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay. What do you think, gentlemen? David, Carl, thank you all for joining us.